with the legal profession, you can either apply directly for an associate position or you apply directly for the training contract. If I had done my research and if I had known that I want to qualify in England, I would have possibly applied to an English university in England.
Yeah.
You definitely get to those crossroads whereby you are actively contemplating whether or not you've made the right decision to cross the Atlantic. Most of my mentors when I first came to the UK were in my university. I kind of built a community of people around me, people who I could easily share my thoughts on a going basis with, especially as it related to my career aspirations.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If this is the first time you're seeing me, hi. If this isn't the first time you're seeing me, thank you so much for coming back. On today's episode of Tefo to Success, we have a trainee solicitor. All of them are still the same solicitor trainee. He's getting there, right? His name is Miebi. He studied social justice in Afe Babalola University and then went along to do an LLB in University of Edinburgh and then went to BPP University. This guy just keeps piling on the law degrees. So I'm just going to let him introduce himself as well and then we'll take it from there.
Hey guys, I'm glad to be here with your amazing host, Cookie.
God, I beg.
She's been very hospitable so far. So yes, as she mentioned, my name is Miebi. I'm a trainee solicitor with a law firm based in London. She also mentioned I went to Afe Babalola University where I had my first degree and then went on to the University of Edinburgh and every other thing that followed from that point.
Okay, so something I want to tell you people from here is that, like, you know, one of those people, you know, when you're watching Suits and you're watching all these law shows, like, I feel like maybe he's definitely one of those people, because to get this guy, I was like, okay, first of all, it was through like a friend of mine that I got his contact, because like on my hunt to find all these people that people have been seeing me talk to, it was not easy to get him. Like, he's so busy. He has been saying, oh, I'm going to this, I'm traveling to this, and I'm just like, God, be like I'm not doing something very correctly in this UK that I'm in. Like, do you have, like, as I'm saying it now, you don't have to hear. Do you understand what I'm saying? So like it's just like amazing to see like young people doing stuff like this. Like, I know it's extremely hard work. Like, it's definitely not like glitz and glam and it's not easy. Nobody like likes to be sleep deprived or anything. Even today he started coming here by like 5 a.m. So something that like is that I found very profound was like you did an internship with the place you currently work at as well when you were a student.
Yeah.
So what was it like? Did they already tell you they were going to take you on, or you just...
Well, I think it was one of those processes that was a path to securing a more permanent role with the organization. So with the legal profession, as I think a few of your viewers might know, you can either apply directly for an associate position or you apply directly for the training contract or you apply through the vacation scheme, which is the internship he talks about. So the route I took was I went in for the VAC scheme, and at the back end of that I secured a training contract with my organization. Yeah, so it was more like an internship, but answering the other parts of your question as to whether or not it was guaranteed, it's never guaranteed. I think these things are always tied to your performance. And I think one thing I should mention is for the legal profession, at that point of stepping foot into the firm as a VAC scheme participant, it's not a test of your brilliance or academic intelligence because you've already proven that by getting past the application stage. So at that point, it's a question of are we for him and is he for us? So it's a culture question that needs to be answered. So if that is ticked off, to a very large extent, you can be rest assured that you can, secure a place with the firm.
Just one question. You know how like in like How to Get Away with Murder and all these shows, there's like a corner office with like big windows. Is that how like your bosses? Is that how their offices are? So.
Well, I think for my organization, it's more or less an open door policy. So in as much as you have like office spaces, you can always walk in to speak to people, either clarify on deals you're working with or just walk in to have a chat, regardless of the seniority level. But obviously, if doors are closed and you see people on calls, and I think luckily in the offices you have like this glass, I wouldn't say walls, but it's more like a transparent office, so you can obviously decipher if the person is busy or not. But most likely than not, if they're free, it's, as I said, an opened up policy. You can always go in and have a chat. And I think that has helped in terms of building good working relationships with people, and beyond just the four corners of the working environment, getting to build genuine relationships that do transcend outside of the office.
Oh, that's interesting. So it's definitely, it's not what American series make it to be.
Well, you work hard. I think that's
I definitely know that. It doesn't seem like an easy job. It definitely doesn't seem like an easy job.
You grind hard. The grinding is hard. It's hard work. But I think the good side to it is working with people who you are on good terms with, on the same wavelength and frequency or rhythm, whatever the word is you use. Like, I think that makes it more enjoyable. But the fact is, it's a hard, it demands hard work, the work itself.
This is the last unserious question before I start asking questions. You know how, like, when I don't know if you I don't know, do lawyers watch all this, like, How to Get Away with Murder, CSI?
Lawyers do a lot of things you don't know.
Okay, so you know how when they're like, in case this, but they will not say the president of, do you guys do that, like, in real life?
Cookie, to be very honest, I went to law school, I did the qualifying exams, and when I started, practicing as a trainee solicitor, I could barely come to terms as to the reality of how different practice is from academics.
Wow.
Especially for commercial legal practice. And of course, you have the contentious side of that. That's the litigation and arbitration, which deals with black letter law, actively making quotes or references to legal precedents. But for a transactional lawyer, which I will be, God willing, it's far detached from that. It's more like, for the senior guys, client management. Then for every other person below the food chain is more like project management. And then the legal technicalities come in when you are negotiating key transactional documents, or when you are you draft a document and then you negotiate with the other side. So that's why you see the legal technicalities play in. But there is no much reference made to case law, except need demands it for such references to be made. So for
this type of law, should I call it commercial law?
Yeah, it's a commercial legal practice, but under commercial law you have like other branches like M&A. Basically you've got the corporate, in general terms. You've got the corporate, which is more or less M&A, private equity, tax, data protection. And then you've got the finance element, which is like the likes of project finance, debt finance, and the likes. So these are like the two distinct areas of corporate law, especially like for a firm like mine.
So you say that you people mostly do like what's it called? Like, you need soft skills more than the hard skills. Like, you need to build your soft skills, like negotiating. I don't really think negotiation is a soft skill, but like, charisma, like making people, convincing people, basically, like getting people to, I don't know whether to say do the things that you want, or at least see things from your point of view and persuade them. You need more of those social, I feel like those are social skills, definitely, but like you people hone in on it and like perfect it very well, because it's definitely part of your job.
Absolutely. And as you rightly said, these are transferable skills, but baseline is you have to have a sound legal mind, which has been informed from years of studying. In as much as you're transactional based, all of these transactions are based or are built on regulations. So even if I said we do not make much reference to black letter law, case law, these transactions are still well regulated and governed by policies, by statutes, by laws, and you have to be conversant with these to be able to effectively advise your clients. But what stands law firms apart is not necessarily the advice you give, is basically the means through which you maintain and sustain those relationships with clients, going above and beyond to meet their needs, beyond just telling them what the law states, being able to think commercially as to how you can apply the law to that particular scenario which your client has approached you with.
Okay, that's interesting. You guys are getting free law lessons. Anyway, so we're going to start with like your early days in the UK.
Sure.
So you came to the UK in 2018.
That's close, 2017.
2017. Wow. Okay. So immediately you graduated.
Yes. So basically, I did as I mentioned, my first degree was in social justice, and that was in Afe Babalola University.
Yeah, but sorry, what was that about? Like, did you always know you were going to be a lawyer, and why did you decide to study social justice instead of just?
Well, I think social justice came as an alternative to law because you know how the Nigerian educational system works, whereby there are certain parameters you need to meet to study law in university, and sometimes when people don't get into these quote unquote cornerstone degree programs, law, engineering, medicine, and then they look for an alternative to fit you into. And at that point, I think the university just actually created the Department of Social Justice. So yeah, they put that on the table and I took that up. And I think by God's grace, I took it in my strides, did my best, and at the tail end of that, but I always knew I wanted to do law. But the question was whether I was going to go down the conventional Nigerian route, whereby I finished my degree in social justice and then go back and start from 200 level into the 5-year law course, or I travel to the UK and then do an accelerated law degree, which will be for just 2 years, and then obtain my LLB. The latter seemed more
like
attractive
it definitely seemed like a better
so
option.
Spent 3 years studying social justice because I had a direct entry into university.
So you did your A-levels, or?
I did an A-levels, in Ibadan, and then went on to do social justice for 3 years thereabouts. At the tail end of that, I then got admitted luckily into the University of Edinburgh for my accelerated LLB, and that was for 2 years. So if you look at things, in retrospect, it's all adds up because a typical Nigerian law degree is 5 years. And within 5 years, God willing, I was able to, get my
and even got
and
different
LLB.
Degrees within that 5 years instead of as opposed to just one degree. Okay, that's interesting actually. Wow. Okay, you went to school.
I told myself, guys, I don't drop this pen. My final exam, when I finished my final qualifying exam, I was like, even signboard, I'm not going to read.
I swear.
I'll cover my eyes and walk past. But I guess that's not the case since, you're in the legal profession. You always have to
read or more. Okay. So when you came to the UK, I like to ask people what was their first part-time job. Did you do any part-time jobs?
Yeah, hospitality was my first gig.
How did you feel?
I schooled, as I said, in Edinburgh in Scotland, and I was fortunate. My first shift wasn't funny because one, I had to put on the uniform, and this is in no way downgrading that profession, but it was a shock to me, being able to, or being asked to be conformed in a certain way. So that was the rude awakening or rude welcoming I got into the workforce. Exactly.
You have all these degrees.
Exactly.
Look at it.
Exactly. And that was how I initially felt for the first shift, which I think was at this museum in Scotland. And I think for me that served also like a motivational factor because going for that event or working at that event, I came across guys who were of the same ethnic background, not necessarily from Nigeria, but two of them were being awarded by the organization, and I think I got to serve one of them a drink, and we just had a brief chit chat. So I think that was more or less the point where I could see that this in itself was not the destination, but it was the process. It was part of the journey. And that did alter my mindset. And subsequent shifts, I just came in looking forward to meeting people and getting the job done. And I was lucky enough to, they usually have this racehorse event in the UK called Ascot. So they have the Scottish version of it. I don't think this is 100% accurate, but your viewers can do their research. But yeah, we did like a number of shifts there, and this is a place where the creme de la creme
rich people. I was going to say it's wealthy people that own horses.
Absolutely. So you're in the same cabin with captains of industries, and I think these guys were kind enough to, which should be the norm. Like no one should be looked down upon, regardless of your assumed social status. But I think you give it to people when they show a sense of humility. So yeah, I had chats with them. I got to meet so many people there. So I saw this as a stepping stone, the hospitality gig. And yeah, so that was my first job in the UK.
That's so interesting, because the thing with part-time jobs in this country is either you absolutely hate it or you like it, or you learn to like it. It's also interesting because like it helps, it just does something to your mind. Also, I've seen like the polar opposites, like it's either it motivates people like crazy, or it makes people feel, I'm not going to be doing this thing if I was at home. Like if I was in Nigeria, I won't be doing this. Or it makes people be like, okay, this is just now, like I'm going to get past it. But that's actually interesting. Did you ever have like a time when you strongly considered leaving this country? Like you were like, I'm done.
I don't tire. No, there were points like that. And I think it's the case for so many other Nigerians who have taken that leap of faith to immigrate to the UK. Yeah, like that's the phrase, easy at all. And you definitely get to those crossroads whereby you are actively contemplating whether or not you've made the right decision to cross the Atlantic. Yeah, I had those moments. Where I possibly doubted what I was able to bring to the table in terms of the profession I want to find myself working with. Yeah, but for me, on the flip side, I think I kind of built a community of people around me, people who I could easily share my thoughts on a going basis with, especially as it related to my career aspirations. I think most frustration for people who move to the UK, especially as students, is breaking even, making that transition from being a student to then being a skilled worker. You know, that glass ceiling is I think one very tricky point people get to. It's loud, exactly. So trying to break that ceiling was difficult on quite a number of levels, but I think at various points in time I always had a mentor or a friend who I could relay my thoughts to, and not necessarily because I wanted them to advise, but somewhere or someone to, vent. And it did help me put things in perspective, like what is the long-term goal? Right. So at these crossroads, what I then had in view was not that present position I found myself, but the finish line. So that just kept me going. But yes, answering your question, I did have those moments where I seriously reconsidered my decision to come here.
Okay, that's interesting. You're the second person talking about like having a mentor and like somebody either like, honestly, I've never really considered, like I always felt like mentors were like a church thing. Of course, I knew that there were mentors for different things like career and like it was mostly career and church, right? But I never really took myself so seriously as to say, oh, I need a career mentor, like until very recently. It's very sad. But so how did you meet your mentor? How did you find these people? How did you even pick these people?
Yeah, I think first is you want to really come to terms with what you want to do, what you want the end to look like, So once you have that in perspective, you can then start aligning that picture with individuals who have gotten there.
Yeah.
Luckily enough, at my university, there were a few of those individuals. I think my target was people who immigrated from Africa.
Okay, that makes sense.
Came to the UK and then got a job with a law firm. I just piggybacked. I think two of them then were my seniors at Edinburgh University.
Okay.
So I just piggybacked them, asked them as many questions as I could. But in as much as you want to draw from their wealth of knowledge, you equally want to build a working relationship with them. So for me, it was beyond just them mentoring me. It was more of, I am genuinely interested in getting to know you better and getting to know your trajectory, getting to know your journey, understanding the process. And that's where I should be able to really deduce what can work for me. And the added advantage is you're building a good relationship with this person. So I think most of my mentors when I first came to the UK were in my university.
That makes sense.
Yes. And I think one of my mentors who is more or less like a brother to me now, he was also at the university, but he was actually the first person from an ethnic minority background I met who had secured a training contract with a top US firm in London.
Wow.
And he was equally committed to diversity and inclusion. And I met him at an event at the University of Edinburgh. And I just tagged along since then. And we're very good friends till today.
Something I'm just taking out from like what you have said is like you met him at an event. If you're staying in your room, you're not going to meet anybody. That's so interesting because I definitely am somebody, I won't say that I'm an introvert, but I'll say like I'm an ambivert, like I'm in the middle, right? Like I can be extroverted, but I'm like, when it comes to all like work events, again, I'll say like I can't really, I don't know, I don't want to seem like, I don't know, but I didn't used to like going for like events that were like maybe work centric or like not really work, student, school, school events and all that. Like I was definitely like, I didn't used to go for them. But that's actually, it makes sense that you meet people. That's what people do. People should stand up. Don't be like me. Stand up and go out and meet people that can help you.
Yeah.
That's actually really good. Did you always know that you were going to study law? I meant to ask you this before, but
Did I always know I was going to study law? I think we all make that decision when you get to SS2.
Okay.
In Nigeria, not even SS2, when you're in GSS3, and then you need to choose whether you want to be a science student or art student.
Yeah.
Based on how mathematics deals with you ruthlessly, then you decide what path you want to take. Yeah, I always knew I was arts inclined.
Okay.
And I've always had a flair for politics, leadership.
Yeah.
I'm very people oriented. Like I'm the kind of person who steps into a room. I might not be the loudest. I wouldn't be the loudest in the room or even the most outgoing, but I always find a corner to speak to people and get to know them better and build meaningful relationships with them. Yeah, that was a key quality. And that was evident because in primary school, I was made the head boy. In secondary school, I was made the senior prefect. In university, I was the students' council chairman. So I've always been in the realm of actively engaging with people. When it came to making that decision, I knew I was going to go along those lines. But as to whether or not I wanted to study law, that was still in question. I think it was up until after my A-levels, not even after my A-levels, before my A-levels, I think I then settled for, okay, you know what, I'm going to do the law degree. And that was partly informed by the prestige of the profession, especially how we do see it in Nigeria. If you're not a lawyer, you should be a doctor.
It's like, what are you doing in arts class? Exactly. Because after law is what? It's usually like law, mass communication. Like it just keeps going. In Nigerian parents' mind, it just keeps going down. So if you're in this one, you need to do the best one.
Absolutely.
Wait, what subjects did you take for A-level?
If my memory serves me right, they were economics, literature, and government.
Oh yeah, Man, I remember like law students in my A levels school as well. I remember the law students, they didn't used to find it funny. They didn't used to find it funny. Like they'd just be carrying about like big like advanced subsidiary and advanced level like textbooks, and I'm just like, what's going on? Did you people like are you okay?
It was really something.
Oh my god,
it was an interesting process. But yeah, I felt like the A levels really did cement my decision to pursue a degree in law. And when I didn't get that, then I was offered social justice. As I said, I took that in my strides. Going in for social justice, touching on points of law, I still did contract law. I think I did commercial law. I did international human rights law.
Wow.
So although I wasn't doing law, but I was touching on these subjects, and I was like, goodness, I think I'm really intrigued by this whole concept of law. So at that point, I did see social justice as a conduit to eventually get into do law, especially based on the fact that I had done my background research as to how I can transition from being a BSc holder to being an LLB holder in the UK. So I was like, okay, you know what? Make we do this thing, give it our best. But at the end of the day, I know I'll be, stepping out and going to pursue my law degree. The decision was built over phases. And when I eventually got law at Edinburgh University, that was big. That was huge. But at the same time, I was like, guy, I don't pay my dues. Like,
makes sense.
Being here is worth it looking back retrospectively. So the decision was made like over time. It was building blocks.
Yeah, it just kept on like solidifying.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Does anybody call you the law?
Goodness, I don't like that.
Because I feel like anytime you see law students, maybe on campus, it's like, oh, the law. My roommate, the law.
I do not like that. I think it was even when I was doing social justice, many persons did call me that. It was a bit, I thought, like looking back, I feel like it was a bit cheesy because I wanted to do law. I'm not doing law. You're still calling me the law. How do you want me to feel? But I felt they did that from a place of love and
just playing around.
Yeah, just teasing. But eventually, yes, we all have to take on the identity placed on us by loved ones.
Friends.
Parents who take pride in telling their friends, my son is a lawyer. Why are you still a law student? He's a lawyer. So
it's the destination that matters, not you're the way.
I think we've all experienced that, but I did have those moments where people teased me along those lines.
I think something else that is very very interesting about law is that majority of people in leadership, law is usually somewhere in the background. I feel like it's a good career to base off any leadership position or any future aspirations off of. It's a good career mostly because of it's a balance. You need to have a good head on your shoulder to be able to be a good not anybody, but most people can go and study law, but not many people will be really good at it. Do you get what I'm saying? And so it makes sense that the people that end up being really good at it tend to then take up positions that are really important in society because handling clients and handling important things and documents and stuff, making the world go round is a good practice for leadership positions and just being for the people.
I completely agree.
I was going to say also lawyers are good liars, politicians. So lawyers,
they go hand in hand.
It makes sense.
The lawyers look for strategic grounds to make the best case to protect clients' interests. That's what we do.
Strategic loopholes. When did you think that it was going to be a successful career path for you? As you were going, yes, I know you were just okay, this is what I want to do. I'm working towards it. But when did it actually look at oh my God, I'm going to make this thing work. If I don't do this, I also feel like there's a drive that guys have. I'm a girl, and I know that a lot of guys, there's this thing guys have. Guys are it's either I do this thing or I die. I know this may sound drastic, but if you think about it, think about the guys in your life. They cannot afford to fail. It's just a thing. But as a girl, they're okay, know how, somebody will come and marry you. Or know how. I mean, of course, I know the times have changed and not a lot of babes now, girls don't think this way as much, but it's still something that is just at the back of your head. Like you still have like a safety net, even if you have not even met anybody that is trying to marry or anything like that. But there's this thing about guys, from even when they are younger, is do or die for them. It's always like cut through. So when did you think, man, like, I'm all in, bad as bad, I must make it to this thing? Or when did you?
No, I think I've had like a similar conversation recently with someone, and it's all about like social biases. Like, I've met incredible women, you know, individuals, women who have committed themselves to a process, and not only did they deliver, they went above and beyond. And that is the trend. And that's exactly, we love to see more of that. Like, we love to see people break more of this social concepts and constructs and biases, and emerge as individuals who, regardless of their gender or, you know, the strata in which society has placed them, they still do pursue their dreams and actualize those dreams. And I see where this is coming from, like in terms of the society we grew up in, where it's 100%. Very patriarchal. But as you rightly said, there is now a generational shift. Anyone who doubts this, go to Lagos and see what women are doing. It's incredible in the tech sector, in politics, in the arts and crafts, like even our artists. I think they are breaking grounds, and as the phrase for this is we love to see it. But for myself, like, when I decided is we die here was the points where like, guy, your people don't say you come UK.
I swear.
They don't pay school fees. People have gone the extra mile. By the time you put all of that into perspective, and I think another motivational factor for me was I did see myself as an arrowhead. Like, I was setting the pace, and I don't know how well I've done that, by the way, in all modesty.
Are you the first son?
No, I'm the last.
So like
no, not that, but setting the pace, not necessarily for my siblings. I have nephews, I have nieces, and in one way or the other, you have people who do look up to you. And I'm 100%. Saying this in all humility and modesty. Irrespective of our imperfections, we still try to set a good track record. So I had all of these motivating factors. Like, I'm not just doing this for myself, I'm doing this for a community of people. And at that point I was like, I'm going to give this my best. And there is this saying that really stuck to me, and it was my elder sister who said this to me. She was like, this life, everybody, they only 100%. Na race. Some people, they go with Ferrari. Other people, they push wheelbarrow. Other people, they trek. It does not matter who crosses the line first, as long as you eventually cross the line. Like, just strive towards keep going forward, right? And that was my mentality, regardless of the challenges, regardless of the hurdles. I had to come to the point where I accepted the fact that I'm not in competition with anybody. If you do well, congratulations. You know, thank God for the grace upon your life, and I will keep pushing. If I fail, yes, I'll be mudded up, but I will dust myself up, stand up, and 100%. Keep moving. But I wouldn't say it was a cutthroat do or die for me. It was more like, I will give this my very best. And if it doesn't work out, definitely something else would work out. And I think grace met with preparation. And I was lucky to be at the right place at the right time.
100%.
And the doors, I know of individuals who are incredibly hardworking, and we give it to them, but you know, sometimes time and chance does not meet for them. And then they go on to do something different, and they just excel in those things. So it took, as with every other thing in my life, it's been like a process for me to get to that point where I acknowledge that, one, I'm not in competition with anybody. Secondly, in as much as I want to get this thing, I'm not going to kill myself. 100%. I'm not fit to pass it in a fit to. If he know day, he know day. If he day, Exactly. So did my best, and as I said, God was gracious enough. I had a good support system. I stood on the shoulder, and I still stand on the shoulders of giants, of people. And I found myself where I find myself today.
Okay, something that you said that I really want to like point out is, when you said like there's a community of people looking like up to you, or people that you're doing it for. Something I always try to tell myself is like, it's important to remember that you're not, if you're here, if you're placed in this place, you're not just here as yourself, you're here as a member of your family.
100%.
And depending on the world scale, you're here as a member of your state. You're here as a member of your country. 100%. You're here as a member of like the Black community, or 100%. Africans in diaspora, or things like that. Something else I wanted to add is that when I was growing up in high school, my principal, she was a reverend sister, she always used to say, when you train a girl, you're training a whole community. That's right. But when you're training a guy, you're training an individual. Of course, I thought that this was the most profound statement at the time. But like, as I've grown up and I've seen that, like, it sounds good. It's like when you're hearing things that they are polishing and it's sounding like so good, but it somehow, I found that in my mind, it was eliminating, like it was extricating guys from like the responsibility of the community behind them as well. You're not just an individual. You're never just an individual. It's just, that's not how it works. That's not how life is. Especially if you're a responsible person and you want something better, like for your life and for the people around you. It's not just. And I just remembered it now that you said, your community, and it's so refreshing to see. Like I can like, it's very refreshing to see. Like, I just feel like it makes for a more rounded individual.
I completely agree, and I think that's like 100%. I come on board with what you just said. The balance to that is no pressure yourself. Like, as I said, feed to pass within you feed to.
100%.
In as much as you know that people look up to you, last you're doing it for you. You're the individual at the forefront, and your community should be able to balance this equation by giving you the bandwidth to be human. You're not a god, you're not superhuman. 100%. You wouldn't always succeed, you would fail. And that's why you have these people there to support you, to be there for you. And when you eventually break even, these are the people who will be there to celebrate with you, who will take the pride with you. So in as much as you're conscious of the community you represent, do not place yourself under undue pressure. And I think the litmus test for how good that community is how they react in moments
of weakness.
Right? Then it reaffirms your commitment to them, why you're doing all of this. There were moments when things did not exactly go as planned for me, but how the people I knew I've been doing this for, including myself, rallied around me, supported me, beat up the drums, got me back on my feet, and kept cheering me on as I went down the track. It was remarkable, and these are moments you'd think of and they inspire you to even do more going forward. So really it's a balance, but yes, we do represent a community. It's always bigger than our individual selves.
I want to ask you industry specific questions now. So the way you got into the UK, would you say there's an easier way, or if you look back now, was there any other way you would have come into the UK and like join the whole UK law system? And also like tell us if there's an easier way, if somebody is trying to like come and study law in the UK, or like just come and be a solicitor here in the UK, is there an easier way for them to get in?
Like that's a very good question. But rewarding it in a way of looking back, what could I have done better? Right? I would say research, ask questions. Just do not leave any vacuum in your knowledge as to the whole process of making that transition from Nigeria to the UK. For me, like, as I can only say this because I'm where I'm at today and looking back retrospectively, and usually I look at things as a journey, as a process. I don't necessarily look at the end result. So everything that happened in my path, in my trajectory, I think they all summed up to this big moment, right? But if I'm to take a step back, I would have researched more, especially because I did my law degree in Scotland.
Yeah.
The intention was I just wanted a law degree.
Yeah.
And after I get the law degree, I could come back Nigeria,
Oh.
do law school,
Okay.
and qualify. That was my goal.
Okay.
And that was the conversation I had with my people before I left Nigeria, right?
Yeah.
But obviously there was still room to think. My parents are more academic inclined. They were like, okay, but you can do your master's, you can do your PhD. That was still on the table. But career-wise, it was to obtain the degree and then qualify back home. That was the plan. But had it been, I asked questions as to how people get qualified in the UK, I might have taken a different path.
Okay.
In the sense of, there are two jurisdictions within the United Kingdom. Okay. You've got the England and Welsh jurisdiction, and you've got the Scottish jurisdiction.
Oh, okay.
So if you studied law in Scotland, your law degree is a non-qualifying English law degree. So if you want to come practice law in England, you have to still convert that Scottish law degree into an English law qualifying degree.
Okay.
I didn't know that, right? So that means went to Edinburgh, and then I realized I think I want to qualify in the UK. Okay, I think I would prefer England to Scotland.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I have to then do this.
Right. Degree or so.
So if I knew, but it's not a regret, because going to Edinburgh Uni, I met incredible people, and that was for me.
It's a Russell Group, isn't it?
It's a Russell Group, and it's one of the top 20 universities in the world.
Yeah, so that's a very good.
And I have met so many people. You know, whenever I travel, you always have like a friend who studied at Edinburgh with you. The other day I was in Paris with two of my friends from Edinburgh. One now runs his family's, not necessarily runs, but
he's a part of it.
He's a part of it, his family law firm in Greece, and the other runs his business in Paris. And these were guys I met at Edinburgh Uni, and these relationships are growing stronger and more solid by the day. And eventually, when I'm in a position where I start building my clientele, like my client base, these are the resources I will tap into, my network. So no regrets at all. But in terms of, for the benefits of your audience, if I had done my research and if I had known that I want to qualify in England, I would have possibly either applied to an English university in England, or another thing that works is with your Nigerian degree, and whatever I say, please do your research.
Yeah,
okay?
definitely.
Because, I think these are just pointers,
suggestions.
But please do your research. But from my perspective, with your Nigerian degree, you can apply for what you call the GDL in England, which effectively does what I experienced. Like, I had a Scottish law degree, and then I had to do the GDL to convert that degree to a qualifying English law degree. So if you have a degree from another country and you want to convert that degree, you can do the GDL, which is for a couple of months, I think 8 to 12 months. So you're paying less. Yeah. There is the consideration, of course, as you've said, like getting a skilled job in the UK can be a bit tricky, and people usually need time. Like time is such an important factor.
100%.
I don't think I would have. Well, I don't know. I'm not God. Yeah, but I don't. I wouldn't say I don't think, but I see lesser chances of me securing the current job I'm doing if I just had
8 months.
8 months to 12 months to study. And remember, then they didn't have this post-study work visa.
That's so important.
And that's why I said, like, looking back in retrospect, everything added up
for a reason. Yeah.
Right? But the key message is, for me, what I would have done better was broaden my perspective beyond just that narrow thinking of obtaining a law degree and come back and qualify. I would have possibly considered the scenario where I wanted to qualify in England, and then, researched more on what that entails rather than going through the longer route.
Okay, that makes sense. So because it was like the Scottish law that you did in Edinburgh, was that why you then went to BPP Uni?
Yeah, so two things. When you get a training contract, many law firms engage like legal education providers. I wouldn't mention names for all of that. But for my organization, they go with BPP.
Okay.
So anyone who secures a training contract, you go to BPP to undergo your professional legal education. And for me, having a Scottish law degree, it was just essential if I'm coming to work for them in England that I convert that degree to in the GDL. But then there's another mandatory exam which is called the LPC. But I think that is now transitioning into the SQE. In all honesty, I don't know much about the SQE.
It's LPP, SQ this, SQ that. God!
Yeah, but what I did was I did the GDL, then I did the LPC, both at BPP University. But just for the benefit of your audience, again, I know there's a transition to the SQE, and I don't think I've invested as much time to know what that is.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's something they can definitely look up. Yes.
Yeah. God, I feel like we've gained so much. I hope you guys are learning. Get your pen and paper. Save it. Send to all your friends.
Yeah.
Okay. So did you have job rejections at first?
Goodness.
Unfortunately.
You want to go down that path? I have a history. I'm sure some organizations wrote my name on their desk. Like, if you receive an application from this
guy.
boy, rejected.
Okay. So how did you handle it?
It was difficult. So, like as many people would know, like with applying for these jobs, they call them cycles.
Yeah.
And these cycles are more like academic sessions. So you have 2022, 2023.
So like graduate roles.
Exactly.
Okay.
So if you miss one cycle, you have to then wait till the other cycle. And remember, I just had 2 years.
Yeah.
So my first cycle was more or less just shooting out applications.
Yeah.
Like anywhere with the employer, I will carry my application, give them. I applied to so many law firms, and I got all rejections. All rejections. I think like those were the dark times. Like those were the really difficult times for me. But in all fairness, and speaking from this position now, when I get to like review applications for people or speak to individuals who are planning to like transition into the legal profession in the UK, I think I can say that in all fairness, I wasn't doing the right thing. Right, so applications are not meant to be generic. Like, you can't just copy and paste the same information. You will get rejected. That is guaranteed. And I think I did a bit of that. And research. Like, you can never overemphasize this. But beyond these, like, two cliche factors, for me, the turning point was when so the first cycle, all rejections. At the tail end of that, I just told myself that one, in as much as I don't have like a legal role in the UK, and I speak to lots of students, and that's a major concern. Like, they feel for them to get the top jobs, you must have worked with like a law firm or as a paralegal or as a legal, and that's good. Individuals who have that, please use that as your competitive advantage. But many persons don't. I didn't. I had done hospitality. I worked with a foundation. I then worked with a bank. So in as much as these were still people oriented, it didn't really hit the nail on the head as legal services. So I spoke to a few persons, and the theme of those conversations was transferable skills. Ultimately, what law firms look for are relevant transferable skills, especially on the graduate spectrum, because they acknowledge that people will not have working experience, and even if they do, they still want to see how much transferable skills you can bring from those experiences on board. So I told myself I need to hone in on my transferable skills, working effectively within a team, effective communication, working on my negotiation skills at the bank, or, working on my people, relation skills. When I was a mentor with the foundation, And I brought all of these to bear in my application. So that was the first thing I did. The second thing is I told myself I wouldn't apply to a law firm I've not stepped foot into or had direct contact with.
Okay.
So that drastically cut down the number of applications I made. I can't visit 50 firms, within a cycle. So I carefully, especially during the summer holidays, carefully chose the number of firms I would want to go for their open days, or I would want to engage with them during the careers event at university, know where their stand is. I just wanted to have a contact with them before I turned in an application.
Okay.
And the good thing about it is in applications, name dropping is very key. You telling an organization, okay, at this event I met this person and they said this thing. That's in itself stands you apart. Stands you out from the crowd of people applying. You have actually shown your interest by engaging with them. So name dropping, very key. And I think the third thing I did was you get rid of generic applications. Like if I'm applying, if you put things into perspective, how much, especially for the legal sector, how much a firm invests into you, it would make you appreciate why the process is so rigorous, right? So they sponsor your visa.
Your visa, yeah.
2, they pay for your legal education. GDL, LPC, those were not cheap.
Expensive, yeah.
Those were really expensive. They give you a maintenance grant. You then come on a training contract where they pay you a lot of money.
Yeah.
And for certain firms, they send you on an international secondment. This is a significant investment, and you cannot just sit over one day. I mean, people are super smart, but I can't sit over one day and put together an application that will befit me, being deemed as competent enough to benefit from these offers I will get upon securing a place with the firm. So if you put that into perspective, it will help you appreciate how much work you should put into your application, because these guys are investing a lot in you. So that's just helped me appreciate the need to not turn in generic applications. Like I need to invest the time and the effort into every single application I sent out.
That's so interesting, because even me, if I was them, I'll hire you. If I was them, because it just shows how thoughtful you are, and like you were intentional. And personally, as somebody that like I've been in the process of like seeing how people hire people, I've been opportunity to just see like how some companies I've worked with hire new staff and hire new employees, right? And somebody may not be the best, but there may just be something that they've done that just shows that this person, they may not have like all the grades or anything like that, but with most of these applications, I'm sure you will have the grades, because if you don't have the grades, you cannot even see yourself there. So you will have the grades, and then you will also do those things that make you stand out as well. That's really good. That's really, really good. I was going to ask you if you thought it was luck, but you already mentioned about like time and chance, and also putting in the work and being at the right place at the right time. So that's irrelevant now. But if you'd say that there was like a number one piece of advice or number one thing that was always ringing in your mind, I know you already mentioned what your sister told you about everybody running their own race, right? But if there was something that you always used to tell yourself, like to get through dark times, to get through tough times, what would it be?
Guy go make up. That was I just get whether UK, whether Madagascar, whether Zambia,
100%.
I was like, I will break even. That was, and it still is a powerful statement.
It is.
I say to myself, and I think the pigeon version, it carries more with.
Yeah,
I go make up.
It definitely hits.
Last, I go make up. Right. 100%. In one shape, and mind you, success is very subjective.
Yes, it is.
It is. So I might not be earning the 7-figure salary, but I find fulfillment in what I do. I wake up every morning looking forward to doing that thing. I have a good community. I have things I can be grateful for. I don't make them like that. That is my own El Dorado. That's my Canaan. But yes, I just knew that I would get to my place of rest eventually.
I want people to notice how he said, I may not be earning the 7-figure. Means that maybe he's already in the 6-figure. I just want to point it out, you know? As he said it, I said, God. Oh, Lord.
I don't know.
But okay, what's something that you're going to tell your past self when you just arrived, when you just got to Edinburgh? I am sure you were happy. You were very, very you were happy to be opportune to be in that school, in that place at that time. But you now, knowing all the things that you know now and like having all the experiences that you've had, what's something that you're going to tell that you when you just arrived?
I had this conversation literally like 1 week ago. And one thing I told the person, and it was a very reflective moment for me. I was like, guy, I know you're working hard, and it's good you're working hard. But one thing I could do differently if I did your position, be say I go enjoy the process, because you cannot kill yourself.
Yes.
Like you're working hard, you're grinding, but you are in an environment that is different from that which you're familiar with. The key word is explore.
Yeah.
Go places if you can. Travel. Meet people. Engage with your community. And it also helps you with the process, because if you're just sat there with applications day and night, it just weighs you down.
Does something to your mind.
But the more you go out there, not necessarily to engage with people, because not everyone is an extrovert. I'm also not an extrovert, but I think I can be extroverted if I want to. But one thing I have committed to doing for myself is investing in my exposure and experiences. The goal for me is I want to be able to sit down with anyone, be you from India, from Pakistan, from Ghana, wherever, and have a meaningful conversation with you and speak intelligently from my experiences. You meet people and you're able to connect with them. And you don't do that from reading. Well, you do that from reading, don't get me wrong.
There's also
but then when you explore your immediate surroundings, not necessarily the wider world, start with your immediate surroundings. If you're in a city like Edinburgh, climb the Otter Seats, try visiting the Scottish Islands, step out of Edinburgh, go to Glasgow, go to Aberdeen, go to St. Andrews. These are just day trips. You can get a bus ticket of, I don't know the price, but let's say £10. Go there, see things, meet people, document all of these experiences. And ultimately, what my mom would always tell, and that's a question she always asks me, are you happy? And that's such an
very important question. Oh my God.
Regardless of where you are you
that's so
you
caring.
And it's more like that mother-son moment, like when your mom draws you close.
That's such an important question.
And
oh my God.
Are you happy? Are you happy with this decision? Are you happy with this place? Are you happy with this? Are you happy with that? And that just sets the tone for an in-depth conversation. So do ask yourself, like, in as much as you're working hard, are you happy with that process? And if you are, please enjoy the process. You might not be getting the results you need at that point, but it's a process and it's the journey that is most important and not the destination.
Okay, there's two things that I took away from what you said, right? The first thing I'm going to say is, first of all, guys, everybody that has come here and all these professionals and all these awesome people that you people have seen, they always say, oh, I'll tell myself to enjoy. Don't enjoy. Like, I understand and it makes sense, but it's like, you people are with like the jobs and everything, now come and tell us, make sure you enjoy. But it almost seems as if it was the lack of enjoyment that made you people get where you are. It's just something I wanted to point out. Then something else I wanted to say about the experience places and experience things, right? There's a quote that says, I don't know exactly the words, but it's when you speak to a man, maybe he'll, basically the whole premise of it is when you speak to somebody, you've spoken to them, they'll hear you. But when you speak to a man in a language that he understands, it transcends everything, just like catapults. I'm saying this because if you've never been to St. Andrews, for example, in Scotland, right? And if you've ever been there and you go there and then you go to New York or you go to another country and you meet somebody from Scotland and you're like, oh yeah, say, oh, I'm from the UK, and they're like, oh, you're from the UK, okay, you work in the UK, and then you'd be like, oh, I went to St. Andrews. You will see that the countenance of that person will change towards you, because it seems like you know a piece about their home, you know a piece about something. You just don't know, oh, Scotland, okay. Do you understand? Like, you've gone there, you've seen things. People can have like basic ground. Their countenance will change towards you. It was just very, I don't know how it just came to my mind when you were talking about like exploring and like, you know, even especially if you're very far from home, these things like count. It may not seem like a relevant thing now, but it definitely counts. I know for myself, when I'll be doing things just randomly, let's say I get an Uber and I'm in the Uber, and then the Uber man maybe sees my name and then calls me and then says, you're from here. I see the countenance. I see, even if it's for 5 minutes, I swear that if I ask that person for like $1,000, if they have it, they will give it to me just for that brief moment of happiness. So it's something that
it's very important. And I mean, you did mention we all come and say this, but I feel like, and even the so-called professionals, myself and the others who you've interviewed, with all due respect, we're still on a journey. Like, I know day where I want day. Like, my day still they come.
Yes.
Right?
Makes sense.
And I want to equally believe they are still in the process. And I can decide now by saying, guy, you know, it's not good. I would just walk. I will do my best. I no go do anything. I don't wash my hand come out. Now walk I want to. And you just be shooting yourself in the feet. Like, in my opinion. Right. It's just so important to engage with your community. Be it immediate or extended.
Okay, so do you mind sharing any like interesting experiences that you've had recently, or anywhere that you've gone recently, not work related, or maybe work related, but you turned out like turning it into something like nice? Any trip, you know?
Okay, I'll just talk about my recent trip. So I was in Switzerland. Geneva. That's a beautiful place. Yeah, and I think like it's just different. I did engage with the history of Geneva. I wouldn't bore you guys with that. But I just feel like people are different. Like, from the way the foundations of a society is laid, it just then informs how the other building blocks are placed to make the structure. The foundations are so important. And I think whenever I go to a new place, I really want to understand where they were, what was, and how that informed what is. And I think, aside being a beautiful place, Geneva, it has such a rich history. It has an ingrained culture, and the people are welcoming. You know, they are very tourist friendly. But I think one thing I realized was I exhausted all the tourist sites within 2 days.
Wow.
If I had to literally space out, because I could finish all of them in 1 day.
Oh, okay.
But luckily a few places were closed over Easter. So they opened on Tuesday, so I was then able to like go visit those places. But you don't have like, so it's a small, geographically speaking, it's quite small, but you can do so much from Geneva. And the good thing is it borders, you can literally take the tram or the bus from Geneva to Italy. 10 minutes. So there's a small, they call it Ville de Carouge. So it's
man of culture.
So it's a small Italian town, and you can literally take the bus there. And they also share borders with France.
Wow.
You can go into France and you can see the Mont Blanc, which people go to like ski. So although it's small and it has like few places for you to visit, but it's more like a window to wider Europe.
Places,
and you can really engage with that long term.
That sounds like a very interesting experience.
I'll say this, but not everyone. Like most of the friends who I told I was in general, like, why in heaven's
What?
why in God's
Are
green
you
earth did you
serious?
go to Geneva?
I
Like
definitely
people don't feel
I
it's a
think
very bubbly
it
place.
is. I feel like Switzerland, mostly because of the Alps, basically.
the Alps,
It's what, like, because
exactly.
last year, and it's not a cheap place as well. It's not among the like cheap places in Europe.
You should flag that to your audience.
No, 100%. Because last year I went to Amsterdam, but before I went to Amsterdam, was definitely like Amsterdam was on my list, but it was like my second option. I was like, I want to go to the Alps. When I checked the hotel for the Alps, I sent myself back to Amsterdam. I just gave myself sense. So like it's so interesting that like we got to experience that.
No, Geneva is
breathtaking.
Goodness.
I feel like it's one of those places where you have like the whole moment of silence and you're like, God, I thank you for my life. God, I just thank you for everything that you've done. Like I feel like it's one of those places that will like evoke that kind of like, you know, reaction from you. I don't know. Sometimes like I find that day to day, or even like when you're just doing random stuff and you're just like, oh my, this is not where I was 1 year ago. This is not where I was.
Absolutely.
I feel like it's one of those things you see and be like, God, they create.
Absolutely. And just being able to, like, for me, my parents gave me the very best, and till forever I am eternally indebted to them.
100%.
Right, eternally indebted. But what they did was they created a platform, what's the word, a springboard to like higher grounds. And one thing I want to do for myself is not being able to have traveled a lot as a kid. Now being in a position where, by God's grace, you can afford certain trips. Like, why not go for them?
That makes sense. You have access now as well. Access is a big deal.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I've come to like the end of like this whole interview, and I usually like to end with like a random question. So for a random question, I actually didn't get around to like finding a very strong one. So you're lucky.
Okay.
You're very lucky.
My heart is racing already. So
but no, it's nothing too deep. Okay. If you had to choose between being invisible and reading people's minds. No, I feel like that's an easy one because you're a lawyer. But okay, if you had the opportunity to be invisible or to read people's minds, what would you choose?
I would invisibility.
Because
I like my peace of mind. I don't want to know what you're thinking.
That definitely makes sense.
By the time you start reading people's minds, you cannot
you go crazy.
Exactly. So let me be. If I want to disappear, let me just disappear rather than reading people. I don't want wild out there. Keep your thoughts to yourself.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, do you have any questions for me before we go?
No, I mean, I'll just say this. Like, I think I also had to like do my background research and look into a few of your videos, and I you know, you're definitely doing a very commendable job. Like, I think there's nothing as powerful as information, and
100%.
Yeah, being the messenger of that, it just strategically places you in a position where you are pulling together a community of individuals who stay informed, stay motivated, and more importantly, stay grateful. You know, there's that element of gratitude regardless of their stage in life, and I think that's the community you're creating, and that's very healthy. So I think it's just a point of commendation for you. Well done. Thank
you very much. Guys, they are watching you people. Thank you so much. Okay, so thank you so much for coming here. Thank you for taking the time. When you texted me, I woke up at 4:30, but then I was like, oh, I beg, it's still 4:30. Let me just baby. Then I just said, okay, let me open my eye, and I saw your text. I said, God. I just stood up. The way I stood up, I've never stood up that quickly. I just stood up and said, okay, let me just get ready. Let me just do all these things. But thank you. Like, guys, they're coming out by 5 a.m. Like, I already like mentioned it before, but honestly, thank you so much. I really appreciate, like, you didn't have to, but we did it. Like, you came, like, we got it. Like, he's literally going to the airport now. Like, now. Thank you so much. And I really appreciate it. Thank you guys as well for watching this video. If you found it helpful, please like it, leave your thoughts in the comments, and share it with your friends. But before I wrap up, do you want to be found?
I'm a very private person.
He doesn't.
But I mean, you can connect with me on LinkedIn, because I think this was more career based conversation. So yes, as I said, my name is Miebi Nokoban. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'll be more than happy to engage with your community and speak to members of your community.
Everybody that's coming, oh yeah, LinkedIn, I'm on Snapchat, I'm on TikTok, I'm everywhere.
The thing is, with most of these people, like, accounts of is it private
it's
or what
not
it called?
like, I understand like having this account and it being private, but like I've legit had people that are like, oh no, it's just LinkedIn, and I'm like,
no, I'm on Instagram.
Oh, okay.
I'm on I don't think people use Facebook
again,
that
but
much, I'm on Instagram. But
it's a private platform for you. That's
but
fine.
I feel like, yes, like if they want to reach out, like LinkedIn would be
is the best.
like I'll be best placed to communicate with them, and I'll be able to like say, oh, you watched that video, good, then we can take the conversation forward.
Okay, I'll put this link to here for you guys to see. Okay, again, I just want to remind you people, if you have anybody that you want to see on this show, then please just leave their names in the comments below and I'll reach out to them, and you never know, they may be my next guest. Don't know. So yeah, thank you guys so much once again. Thank you so much, Miebi, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye guys.
Bye.